In the heart of the galactic core, aboard the obsidian spire of the Krylos Empire, Lisa stood alone among thousands. She was the only human present, a lone representative of Earth's fragile alliance with the most powerful alien civilization in known space. Her uniform was simple, her posture stiff, but her eyes held a quiet strength that had earned her a seat in the royal court. She had not expected to be here long, just long enough to deliver Earth's formal request for trade rights. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. The Krylos were tall, their skin shimmering like polished onyx, their eyes glowing faintly violet in the dim light of the throne chamber. They moved with eerie grace, their voices a low hum that resonated through the stone walls. At the center of it all sat Queen Zira, ruler of the Krylos for 3 centuries. Her presence commanded silence, her gaze sharp enough to cut through steel. Beside her, wrapped in silken veils, was her young heir, Princess Nyra, barely 5 cycles old by Krylos reckoning, though that made her the equivalent of a human toddler. Lisa had seen the princess only once before, during a brief audience a week prior. The child had stared at her with wide, curious eyes, but had said nothing. Now, as Lisa stepped forward to present Earth's petition, the princess stirred. "Father," the small voice rang out clear and bright, cutting through the heavy air like a chime. The entire court froze. Queen Zira's eyes narrowed. The royal guards tensed. Even the ambient hum of the chamber seemed to vanish. Lisa blinked, certain she had misheard, but the princess pointed a slender finger directly at her. "Father," Nyra repeated, her voice firmer this time. A murmur rippled through the assembled nobles. No one spoke the word aloud, but the thought hung in the air like smoke, impossible. Humans and Krylos were biologically incompatible. Reproduction between their species was a scientific impossibility. Yet the princess, whose word carried the weight of prophecy in Krylos tradition, had just named a human as her sire. Lisa's heart pounded. She glanced at Queen Zira, searching for some sign of anger or amusement. But the queen's face was unreadable. After a long moment, Zira raised a single hand and the court fell utterly silent. "You will remain," the queen said, her voice smooth as glass, "until this matter is resolved." Lisa was led not to a cell but to a suite within the royal wing, lavish, guarded, and utterly inescapable. She spent the first night pacing, her mind racing. She had never been alone with the queen. She had never even touched the child. How could this have happened? She replayed every moment of her arrival on Krylos Prime. She had come aboard the diplomatic shuttle Aurora, escorted by 2 Krylos honor guards. She had been scanned, questioned, and finally granted entry after 3 days of waiting in orbit. During that time, she had seen no one except protocol officers, certainly no royal children, and yet the princess knew her, called her father. The next morning, a Krylos scholar named Vela visited her. Vela was older, her skin etched with silver lines that marked her as a keeper of ancient knowledge. "The princess does not lie," Vela said without preamble. "In our culture, a child's first naming is sacred. If she calls you father, then the universe has woven your thread into hers." "But that's not possible," Lisa insisted. There's no way." Vela tilted her head. "You misunderstand. This is not about biology. It is about destiny. The Krylos believe that a soul may choose its guardians across species, across stars. Your presence here was not chance. The princess sensed your spirit long before you arrived." Lisa sat down heavily. "So what happens now?" "The queen will test you," Vela replied. "If you are truly meant to be the child's father, you will pass. If not, well, the Krylos do not tolerate deception." Over the next few days, Lisa was summoned to the royal nursery. Nyra greeted her with a smile, running to her with surprising speed for one so small. She tugged Lisa's hand and led her to a window overlooking the twin moons of Krylos Prime. "You came back," Nyra said simply. "I didn't have a choice," Lisa admitted. "But you stayed," the child replied, as if that settled everything. They spent hours together. Lisa read stories translated into Krylos script, played quiet games with glowing stones, and listened as Nyra babbled about dreams of flying ships and blue oceans. Slowly, against her better judgment, Lisa began to care. There was something in the child's eyes, a loneliness that mirrored her own. Lisa had lost her own family in the Mars colony collapse years ago. She had buried herself in duty ever since, but Nyra looked at her like she was home. Queen Zira watched from the shadows, silent and unreadable. On the 7th day, the queen summoned Lisa to the Chamber of Echoes, a circular room where truth could not be hidden. The walls pulsed with soft light and the air hummed with ancient energy. You will answer 3 questions, Zira said. Lie and the chamber will know. Evade and you will be cast out. Speak true and you may claim your place. Lisa nodded. First, Zira began. Why did you come to Krylos? To secure trade rights for Earth, Lisa said. To help my people survive. Second, why did you stay when my daughter called you father? Lisa hesitated. Because no one should be alone, not her, not me. A flicker of something passed over Zira's face. Was it pain? Recognition? Third, the Queen said, her voice softer now. Do you accept her? Lisa looked past the Queen, through the archway leading to the garden where Naira waited. The child was watching her, eyes wide with hope. Yes, Lisa said. I do. The chamber glowed brighter. The hum deepened, and then silence. Queen Zira turned and walked toward her daughter. She knelt, placing a hand on Naira's head. She is yours, Zira said, not to Lisa but to the universe itself. The court erupted in whispers, but this time there was no shock, only awe. For the first time in centuries, a human had been bound to the royal bloodline not by war or treaty, but by choice. In the weeks that followed, Lisa remained on Krylos Prime, not as an ambassador, but as a parent. She learned the Krylos ways, taught Naira about Earth, and slowly, carefully rebuilt a life she thought she'd lost. Queen Zira never spoke of the past, but Lisa sometimes caught her watching them together, a strange sadness in her eyes. One evening, as the twin moons rose, Zira finally explained. Naira's true father died before she was born, the Queen said quietly. He was a warrior, brave but reckless. I feared she would inherit his fire without his wisdom. When I saw you, calm, steady, willing to protect without demanding power, I knew the stars had sent you. Lisa didn't know what to say, so she simply nodded. From that day on, the human woman known as Lisa became more than an outsider. She became father to a princess, confidant to a queen, and bridge between two worlds. And though the galaxy still turned with its wars and wonders, in the heart of the obsidian spire, a new kind of family began to bloom. One built not on blood but on trust, on choice, and on the quiet courage to say yes when the universe asks the hardest question of all. Years passed. Naira grew taller, her mind sharper, her spirit fiercer. She was no longer the small child who clung to Lisa's hand at dawn. Now at 12 Krylos cycles, roughly 16 in human years, she walked the halls of the obsidian spire with the grace of a future queen, yet her eyes still lit up whenever Lisa entered the room. Lisa had aged too. Lines creased the corners of her eyes, and her dark hair now held streaks of silver. Humans aged quickly compared to the Krylos, whose lifespan stretched for centuries. Sometimes, in quiet moments, Lisa wondered how much time she truly had left with Naira, but she never spoke of it. She chose instead to fill every day with lessons, laughter, and love. Queen Zira, ever watchful, began preparing Naira for rule. State meetings, diplomatic negotiations, military briefings. Naira attended them all, and Lisa stood beside her, not as a soldier or a noble, but as counsel. Her human perspective became a valued voice in the court. She saw solutions others missed, asked questions no Krylos would think to pose, and reminded them that strength could be gentle. But peace, once again, began to crack. Rumors spread of unrest in the outer provinces. Colonies that once pledged loyalty now whispered of rebellion. Worse, strange signals pulsed from dead zones, places where no ship should be, yet something moved in the dark. The Vorthax were gone, but a new threat stirred. The Hollow Fleet, a ghost armada said to be crewed by mind stripped of will, controlled by an unknown force. Then came the attack. Not on a border world, but on a Krylos training outpost near the Nebula Veil. The entire station vanished. No distress call, no debris, just silence. Sensors later picked up a single transmission. A distorted voice speaking in broken Krylos. The child must be returned. Naira froze when she heard it. They mean me, she said quietly. Lisa's blood turned cold. Why would they want you? Queen Zira's face darkened. Because she carries the bloodline of the first weavers, the ones who built the spire, who sang the stars into place. Some believe that blood holds power, enough to control the ancient gates. Gates? Lisa asked. Portals, Zira explained, hidden across the galaxy, dormant for millennia. If awakened by the right blood, they could reshape reality. Lisa looked at Naira, really looked, not as a princess, not as a symbol, but as the child who once asked about rain. She could not let her be used as a key. We hide her, Lisa said. We cannot, Zira replied. To hide her is to admit fear. The court would fracture, enemies would pounce. Then we'd protect her, Lisa insisted. Not with walls, but with truth. Together they made a plan. Nira would continue her duties, but Lisa would train her in human ways of evasion, misdirection, and survival. While Krylos taught honor and directness, Lisa taught her how to disappear in a crowd, how to read a lie in someone's eyes, how to run if she must. They trained in secret gardens under moonlight far from prying eyes. Lisa showed her how to use simple tools, a mirror to signal, a rope to climb, a voice to mimic. Nira learned fast, her mind hungry for every trick. Why do humans think like this? Nira asked one night, tying a knot Lisa had just shown her. Because we were never the strongest, Lisa said, so we learned to be clever. One evening, as they practiced silent movement through the lower archives, an alarm blared. Red light flooded the corridors. Guards shouted in Krylos tongue. Lisa grabbed Nira's wrist. "Stay close," she whispered. They raced through hidden passages Vela had once shown her, routes used only in times of siege. But as they neared the royal vault, a figure stepped from the shadows. It was Corin, the elder who had once accused Lisa of betrayal. "You cannot run forever," he said, his voice calm but cold. "We're not running," Lisa said. "We're protecting." Corin's eyes flicked to Nira. "They will come for her. And when they do, your human tricks will not be enough." "Maybe not," Lisa said, "but I will stand between her and them until my last breath." Corin studied her for a long moment. Then, to her surprise, he stepped aside. "Then may your breath be long," he said, and vanished back into the dark. The threat did not fade. More outposts fell. More whispers grew louder. And then, a message arrived. Not through official channels, but carved into the hull of a scout ship found drifting near the Vale. It bore a single symbol, the mark of the first weavers, and beneath it a human word: remember. Lisa knew that word. It was the password she'd used during her first mission on Mars years ago. Only one other person knew it, her old friend Dana Mills, who had died in the colony collapse. Or so she thought. Could Dana be alive, working with the Hollow Fleet? The idea twisted in her gut like a knife. Queen Zira saw her distress. "You know this sign," she said. "I do," Lisa admitted. "And if it's truly her, then this is personal." "Then you must face it," Zira said. "Not as a guardian, but as yourself." So Lisa made a choice. She would go to the Vale alone. Not as a soldier, not as a diplomat, but as a woman seeking answers. She left a note for Nira. "Trust your heart. I will return." As her small ship launched into the void, Lisa looked back at the obsidian spire glowing against the stars. She did not know what waited in the nebula, but she knew one thing for certain. She would not let the past steal her future. Not again. And somewhere in the dark, a ghost waited. Life in the obsidian spire settled into a strange rhythm. Lisa no longer wore her Earth uniform. Instead, she dressed in soft Krylos robes dyed in deep blues and silvers, the colors of the royal household. She walked the halls not as a guest, but as a guardian. Every morning, Nira would find her before sunrise, small hand slipping into hers without a word. They would watch the twin moons fade as the sky turned violet, then gold, then white with the light of Krylos' prime sun. The court still watched her, some with suspicion, others with quiet respect. But none dared speak against her now. The Chamber of Echoes had spoken, and its judgment was final. Still, Lisa felt the weight of their stares. She was human, soft-skinned, short-lived, fragile. How could she raise a child destined to rule an empire older than human civilization? Yet Nira never seemed to notice the difference. To her, Lisa was simply father, steady, kind, and always there. She asked endless questions about Earth. What rain felt like, why humans laughed when they were happy, whether dogs really wagged their tails. Lisa answered as best she could, weaving stories of green fields and city lights, of oceans that stretched forever, and stars that looked different from home. Queen Zira allowed these lessons. In fact, she encouraged them. "She must know both worlds," the queen said one evening as they watched Nira practice calligraphy with glowing ink. "Not just to rule, but to understand." But peace never lasts long in empires. One day, a messenger arrived from the outer rim, breathless, wounded, bearing news that sent shockwaves through the spire. The Vorthax, a warlike species long thought defeated, had returned. They had attacked 3 border colonies, slaughtering thousands. Worse, they claimed to possess a weapon that could shatter Krylos shields. a weapon powered by stolen human tech. Lisa's blood ran cold. Earth had strict laws against weapon exports, but black markets existed. Someone, somewhere, had sold secrets to the highest bidder. Queen Zyra called an emergency council. Lisa was not invited, but Nira refused to let her stay away. "You are my father," the child insisted, her voice firm beyond her years. "You belong there." To everyone's surprise, the queen agreed. In the war chamber, the air was thick with tension. Generals argued over fleet deployments. Spies reported encrypted signals traced to human freighters. One elder, Corin, turned his glowing eyes to Lisa. "Your people brought this upon us," he said, voice sharp as glass. "Perhaps your presence here is not blessing, but curse." Lisa met his gaze. "I did not sell weapons. Neither did Earth's council. But if human tech is being used, then I can help find who did." "How?" Corin sneered. "Because I know how humans think," Lisa said quietly, "and I know where they hide." Queen Zyra studied her for a long moment. Then she nodded. "You will lead a joint task force. Krylos scouts in your knowledge. Find the traitor. Stop the Vorthax." That night, Lisa packed a small bag. Nyra stood in the doorway, arms crossed. "You're leaving," she said, not as a question. "Only for a little while," Lisa replied, kneeling. "I have to fix something. For you, for your people, for mine. Will you come back?" Lisa placed a hand on the child's shoulder. "I promise." The journey took them to the fringe world of Helios 9, a dusty, lawless port where credit spoke louder than laws. Lisa moved through the alleys like a shadow, her Krylos escort cloaked in stealth fields. She knew this kind of place. She'd grown up in the outer colonies before joining the diplomatic corps. She knew how to read the signs, the nervous glances, the too clean storefronts, the coded symbols scratched near doorways. It didn't take long to find the source. A human named Carla Ross ran a salvage yard on the edge of town. On the surface, she recycled old ship parts, but beneath the floor in a hidden vault were crates stamped with Earth defense insignia, pulse cores, shield modulators, even prototype neural disruptors. Lisa confronted her alone. "You're selling to the Vorthax," Lisa said, voice low. Carla laughed, bitter and tired. "I'm surviving. Earth cut us off after the Mars collapse. No aid, no protection. The Vorthax paid well, better than your precious alliance ever did." "You're arming monsters," Lisa shot back. "And your alliance arms kings," Carla countered. "At least I feed my people." For a moment, Lisa saw herself in Carla's eyes, the same anger, the same loss. But she remembered Nyra's face, the trust in those violet eyes. "I can't let you do this," Lisa said. Carla reached for a weapon, but the Krylos scouts moved faster. They disarmed her without violence, sealing the vault with imperial sigils. Back on Krylos Prime, the evidence was presented to the council. Carla was handed over to Earth authorities, her crimes exposed. The Vorthax advance stalled without their new weapons. Peace, fragile but real, held. Queen Zyra summoned Lisa to the garden at dusk. "You chose loyalty," the queen said. "Not to your species, but to what is right." "I chose Nyra," Lisa replied. Zyra smiled, a rare, true smile. "Then you have passed the final test." "Test?" Lisa asked. "The first was truth. The second was courage. The third was sacrifice. You could have protected your own. Instead, you protected us all." From that day on, Lisa's title changed. No longer just father to the princess, she was named Shield of the Line, a human granted a place in Krylos history. Statues would one day bear her likeness. Songs would tell of the off-worlder who stood between empire and ruin. But Lisa cared little for glory. She only cared for the small hand that found hers each morning, and the voice that whispered, "Tell me about the rain again, Father." And so, under alien skies, a human woman built a home, not with blood, but with choice, with courage, and with love that crossed the stars. Peace settled over Krylos Prime like morning mist, soft and steady. The threat from Earth had faded, not with fire, but with shame. The faction that sought to steal Nyra was dismantled, its leaders answering to human courts. The Hollow Fleet, once feared, now sent quiet messages of gratitude. Dana stayed not as a prisoner, but as an advisor, helping build a new line of trust between outcasts and empires. Lisa returned to her quiet life in the Spire. She walked the gardens, taught Nyra Earth songs, and shared meals with Queen Zyra under the twin moons. But something had changed. Not in the world, but in her. She was tired, not the kind of tired that sleep could fix. This was deeper, older. Her joints ached in the cold. Her breath came slower after long walks. She saw the way Naira watched her sometimes, eyes filled with a sadness too heavy for someone so young. Humans did not live long. Even with Krylos medicine, even with the best care, time moved faster for her than for them. She had known this from the start. But knowing and feeling were two different things. One evening, as they sat by the reflecting pool, Nira spoke without looking up. "You're not going to be here forever, are you?" Lisa's throat tightened. She didn't lie. "No," she said softly. "Not forever." Naira was silent for a long time. Then she asked, "What happens when you're gone?" "You keep going," Lisa said. "You rule with kindness. You remember the rain. You protect those who cannot protect themselves. And you never forget that strength isn't just in your hands, it's in your heart." Naira nodded, tears glistening but not falling. "I will make you proud." "You already do," Lisa whispered. Queen Zira, watching from the archway, made a decision that very night. She called the royal scholars and opened the vaults of the first weavers, the deepest, oldest part of the spire where even queens tread lightly. There, hidden in crystal archives, was a ritual older than the empire itself, the binding of echoes. It did not grant immortality, but it could weave a soul's voice into the memory of the spire, so that their words, their wisdom, would remain, not as a ghost, but as a guide. It required consent. And sacrifice. The next morning, Zira found Lisa in the nursery, helping Naira repair a broken music orb. "There is a way," Zira said, "for your voice to stay with her." Lisa listened as the queen explained. When the time came, her final breath would not be an end but a thread woven into the walls of the spire. Naira would hear her in dreams, in quiet moments, in the rustle of the wind through the silver trees. "It won't be me," Lisa said. "Not really. No," Zira agreed. "But it will be your love. And that is real enough." Lisa thought for days. She walked the halls, touched the stone walls, remembered every laugh, every lesson, every sunrise with Naira. Finally, she said yes. As the seasons turned, Lisa grew weaker. She spent more time in the garden, less in the council chambers. Naira never left her side for long. She read to her, told her stories of her own adventures, held her hand through the pain. One night, under a sky thick with stars, Lisa called them both close. "I'm ready," she said. Queen Zira nodded. The scholars gathered. The Chamber of Echoes opened once more, not for judgment but for farewell. Lisa lay on a bed of woven light, her breathing slow. Nira knelt beside her, tears streaming silently. "Don't be sad," Lisa whispered. "I'm not leaving. I'm becoming part of your world, always." She reached up, touched Naira's cheek one last time. "Be brave, be kind, and never stop asking about the rain." Then she closed her eyes. The chamber glowed, the walls hummed, and Lisa's breath became part of the song of the spire. Silence fell. Then a soft chime, like a child's laughter, like distant rain. Nira looked up. "I hear you," she whispered. In the weeks that followed, life went on. Nira took on more duties, her voice stronger, her choices wiser. Sometimes, in the quiet hours, she would walk the garden alone and swear she felt a hand on her shoulder or heard a familiar voice on the wind. Queen Zira watched her daughter grow, proud and heartbroken all at once. She knew Lisa's sacrifice had given Nira something no throne ever could, the courage to lead with love. Years later, when Naira was crowned queen of the Krylos Empire, she stood before thousands in the Great Hall. She wore robes of blue and silver, and around her neck hung a small crystal, filled with a single drop of human blood and a whisper of memory. "Today," she said, voice clear and strong, "I do not rule alone. I carry with me the heart of one who chose me, taught me, and loved me across stars. Her name was Lisa, and she was my father." The court bowed, not just to their queen, but to the human who had changed their world. And high above, in the obsidian spire, the wind sighed through the towers, soft as a lullaby, gentle as a promise. Somewhere, in the quiet between heartbeats, Lisa smiled. The nebula veil hung in space like a curtain of smoke and light. Lisa's ship, the Whisper, drifted silently through its outer edges. Sensors were useless here. Radiation scrambled signals, and the swirling gases played tricks on the eyes. She flew by instinct, guided only by the faint echo of the distress beacon she'd traced from the scout ship. Deep inside the veil, she found it. A derelict station, half swallowed by the nebula. Its hull was scarred, patched with metal from a dozen species, and floating beside it, a human escape pod, old, battered, but unmistakably from the Mars colony era. Lisa docked carefully. The airlock hissed open, revealing darkness and the smell of stale oxygen. She stepped inside, pulse rifle in hand, though her heart hoped she wouldn't need it. "Dana," she called softly. Silence, then a flicker of light. A figure emerged from the shadows. Tall, gaunt, wrapped in a tattered flight suit. Her face was lined, her hair white, but her eyes, those were the same eyes Lisa remembered from training simulations back on Earth orbit. "You came," Dana said, voice rough from disuse. "They said you died," Lisa whispered. "I almost did," Dana replied. "The collapse buried me under rubble. I was pulled out by scavengers, sold to slavers, then to scientists. They wanted to study human resilience. I escaped, over and over, until I found them." "Them?" Lisa asked. "The hollow ones," Dana said, gesturing to the station. "Not monsters, survivors like us. They built this place to hide from empires that see them as tools or threats. They found me broken and gave me purpose, and by attacking Krylos outposts." Lisa's voice hardened. "We didn't attack," Dana said quickly. "We warned. The hollow fleet you hear about, it's not ours. Someone is using our name, framing us." "Who?" Dana hesitated. "Earth Central Command. They've been hunting the Veil for years. They want the gates. They believe Krylos blood can open them, and they think Naira is the key." Lisa's stomach dropped. "Earth, my own people?" "Not your people," Dana corrected gently. "A faction. Power-hungry. Scared of being left behind as Krylos and others rise. They've built ships that mimic the hollow fleet's signals. They're trying to start a war, to justify taking Naira by force." Lisa leaned against the wall, head spinning. "Betrayal from home cut deeper than any alien blade. Why send the word remember?" she asked. "Because I knew only you would understand," Dana said. "And I knew you'd come alone. You always were too loyal for your own good." Lisa looked at her old friend, alive, changed, but still human. "What do we do?" "We stop them," Dana said. "Together." Back on Krylos Prime, Naira paced the royal chamber. Days had passed since Lisa left. The court grew restless. Queen Zera remained calm, but even she watched the stars with worry. Then a signal broke through the veil. Encrypted, human-coded, but bearing the Krylos royal seal. It was Lisa. "They're coming," the message said. "Not the hollow fleet. Earth warships. Disguised. They'll strike at dawn." Panic rippled through the spire. But Naira did not flinch. She turned to her mother. "We don't fight them head-on. We trap them." Queen Zera raised an eyebrow. "And how?" "Like Lisa taught me," Naira said. "With cleverness, not force." She ordered the outer defense grid powered down, making the spire appear vulnerable. She sent decoy ships into orbit, broadcasting false life signs. And deep in the planet's core, she activated the ancient resonance chambers, silent for centuries, but still tied to the first Weaver's blood. At dawn, 3 Earth warships dropped from warp, cloaked in stolen hollow fleet signatures. They fired on the decoys, believing the spire defenseless. But as they moved closer, the planet itself answered. A low hum filled space. The obsidian spire glowed. Energy arced from its towers, not as weapons, but as a net, binding the ships in place, disabling their engines without destroying them. Aboard the lead vessel, Admiral Cole stared in shock as his systems failed. "What is this?" On the bridge of the Whisper, now docked safely in the spire's lower bay, Lisa watched the display. Beside her stood Dana, granted temporary asylum. "That," Lisa said, "is a mother and daughter protecting their home." Queen Zera ordered the Earth crews taken prisoner, not harmed. She broadcast a message across all channels. "Earth, you sought to steal a child to gain power. Instead, you found mercy. Return to your world, and never again use fear as your shield." The message spread. On Earth, protests erupted. The faction collapsed under public outrage. Peace held. Days later, Lisa stood in the garden with Naira. "You didn't need me," Lisa said softly. "I always need you," Naira replied. "But now I know I can also stand on my own," Lisa smiled. The child was becoming a queen, but still her child. Queen Zera joined them, placing a hand on each of their shoulders. "You both saved us," she said. "Not with war, but with truth." As the twin moons rose, the 3 of them stood together. Human, Krylos, and the bridge between them. The galaxy was vast, full of danger and wonder, But here in this moment there was only peace, and for Lisa that was enough.